the day Jack came to my house to propose marriage. I secretly squatted outside the living room and ate melon seeds. Jack, I have taken a fancy to Stella. You figure it out. My parents pushed out my elder sister. Actually, my Sophia is better. Jack, humph. Outside the door. I also humphed. Unexpectedly. A pair of black leather shoes appeared in front of me. My marriage to Jack was originally an accident. Because to be honest, I don't know what he sees in me. The Song family started from scratch. Even if it's for an alliance. I have an elder sister above me who is 8 streets ahead of me in appearance and is also more loved by my parents. The day he came to my house, I thought he was about to become my brother-in-law. I didn't expect to become the center of the gossip myself. Jack and my parents were sitting in the living room discussing the marriage. Jack is outstanding in appearance and young and promising. The Chunky Group, founded by 3 generations of the Zhang family, is a leader in the business world. Under Jack's leadership, the products are even sold overseas. The Song family is a small household. My money-loving parents can't compare. So they were dazzled by the conditions he offered. But for such a man with excellent qualifications who comes to offer himself for marriage, my parents must first think of Sophia. I hid outside the living room and eavesdropped. I know that Sophia must also be secretly observing on the 2nd floor. Within 5 minutes, my father's address for him has changed from Mr. Zhang to Jack. My mother, Jack is young and promising. He is really a perfect match for our Sophia. Jack, I like Stella. My mother was suddenly like a duck whose neck was pinched. Yes. Yes. But my Min. Jack tapped twice on the coffee table with his finger. Stella. My parents. I sat down on the ground. As if struck by lightning. This was something I never expected. In the few minutes when I was in a daze, Jack and my parents had quickly finalized the marriage. I stared blankly at the ground. In my field of vision, a pair of black leather shoes appeared. I looked up slowly along the trouser legs. I saw him wearing gold-rimmed glasses and bending down. There were strands of hair falling by his ear. There was a smile overflowing in his eyes. Eavesdropping? No. 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 I'm not. I was listening openly. He said, then, are you willing? If you ask me if I like him, then I have no feelings for him. But if you ask me if I am willing, suddenly I remembered the incident last year when my father planned to marry me to the youngest son of a certain multinational group, but I forced him to give up with death threats. I was silent. My parents don't like me. If there is something good, they give it to Sophia first. Besides, the family business has not been optimistic in the past 2 years. The usefulness of the marriages of the 2 daughters can be imagined. Jack is the best I can see. Looking at him kneeling in front of me on one knee, unconsciously showing a little nervousness on his face, I asked carefully, what benefits can I get if I marry you? He said seriously, as long as you are willing, I will give everything I have. Can I get up at 12 noon? Yes. Can I travel every year? Yes. Then, how much money can I get after divorce? Jack's face darkened. There will never be a divorce in this life. Don't dream. I muttered in a low voice, but we haven't gotten married yet. Jack. Finally. He gritted his teeth. If we divorce, all my possessions are yours. Really? My eyes lit up. Then I am willing. If there is a bargain, take it. Don't be a fool. Jack seemed to be relieved. A smile appeared on the corner of his lips. Then next month, we will get married. This. I opened my mouth wide. There is no need to be so fast. I am only your age years old. Jack does what he says. Within a month, he prepared all the necessary items for the wedding. Both parents were caught off guard, whether it's the scene layout or inviting guests. As the prospective bride, I just need to sit and nod. 3 days before the wedding date, at 12 midnight, Jack sent me a message saying that he was downstairs at my house. My family members are all asleep. This is not very good. So I asked him to climb over the wall and come in. Anyway, my room is not high. It's considered a test of the physical strength of my fiancé. Under my room window, Jack gave me a mysterious look. Then he quickly climbed in. Although I have no emotional foundation with him at all. So when he sits in my room, I don't know what to say. He looked at me and I looked at him. A strange atmosphere filled the air. Jack rubbed his temples. Did you forget that you are wearing slippers? I looked down at my toes sticking out of the flip-flops in a spastic state. My face flushed bright red. I stammered, Mr. Jong. What exactly do you see in me? He smiled, guess. Stella? I don't want to guess either. But he called me Stella. I tentatively said, because I am young? I heard that men of all ages like little girls. And Jack seems to be Jack's age. Jack's face darkened. Am I very old? No. No, 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 no. It can't be because I love to eat, play, and sleep late. Finally, he said with a headache, don't think about why. Jack just likes Stella. Remember? I nodded dully. He reached out and rubbed my hair, squatted down and looked into my eyes at the same level. After we get married, are you willing to leave your family's company? Willing. I am more than willing. He seems to know what I want. I studied computer science in college and graduate school. I ranked first in my major every year. But after graduating from graduate school, my parents insisted that I go to the company to help my elder sister. Now the network defense system of the Song family was built by me alone. I actually want to leave. But my parents won't allow it. Jack considered carefully. I am not trying to interfere with your work. But a company like the Song family will only hold you back. I know. I know. I entered the role 3 days in advance. Looked up at him eagerly. I will listen to you. Jack's body stiffened. Hurriedly said, it's getting late. Go to bed early. I'll go back first. Saying that, he slipped down through the window. He climbed faster than a gecko. After Jack left, I went out to pour water. But I saw Sophia at the corner of the stairs, looking at me with complicated eyes. I was stunned for a moment, pretended not to see her and walked around. Anyway, this is not the first time. In this family, I have never been liked. The wedding date is today. Before this, Jack told me about the wedding procedures. The scene is luxurious. The cost is outrageous. Forget about other things. But those several custom-made wedding dresses are really so beautiful that I can't bear to look away. I said eagerly, isn't this too luxurious? I have never met someone who is willing to spend so much money on me until now. It's not luxurious. Jack smiled and rubbed my head. It's so hasty. I'm afraid I will wrong you. My eyes lit up. And I also had some expectations for this marriage. Because of my parents' concern for face. Even if Sophia is reluctant, she has to be my bridesmaid. Even if she is willing. I am not. On the wedding day, the sky was clear and there were countless guests. I walked slowly to the stage holding my father's hand. Poor my old father. He wanted to squeeze out a few tears. But he didn't have such advanced acting skills. Finally, he just whispered in my ear, Stella, after you get married, you can't forget your family. I said, I know. But since I have never received love, how can I give love? This is my wedding. So grand. So different. Only once in a lifetime. I agreed to this marriage not only because I couldn't refuse, but also because I want to escape from them. As far as possible. My father put my hand into Jack's hand. I gently looked up at him, and was immediately amazed. He is so good-looking. Tall and straight. Gentle eyebrows and eyes. Like the spring breeze and rain. There seems to be endless affection in his eyes. At least for a moment. I am willing to believe that he really likes me. Exchange rings. Kiss. I didn't know how. Tears were stimulated. Jack held my face and said softly, breathe. Whew. Still can't. After a whole day. It finally ended. I collapsed in the new wedding villa. Suddenly I remembered something. What should be done on the wedding night? Oh no. My mind was in a mess. Before I could figure it out, Jack pushed the door and came in. I turned my head and glared at him. As I glared, two suspicious blushes inexplicably appeared on my face. What's wrong? Jack looked at me amused. Why? Are you unhappy? He looked at me gently. I'm afraid that my being so abrupt in forcing you to marry me will make you. But I really can't help it. Can't help it? Which can't help it? I stared at him warily. He pinched my face. Okay. You've been tired all day. Take a bath and rest early. Two big red signs were erected in my heart. Then I went to take a bath slowly with full of confusion and hesitation. After I came out, Jack leaned on the bedside and fell asleep. Hearing the movement, he woke up again, got up and gave me a light kiss on the lips. Stella, I am very happy. Wait for me. The sound of the shower in the bathroom came out. I buried my face in the quilt. Wouldn't lie. Facts have proved that Jack's physical strength is still good. Because the next day, I really got up at 12 noon as I wished. After getting married, I am much freer than before. Jack's parents are traveling abroad. The marriage is his own choice. There are no parents-in-law to deal with and no children to raise. If I get a large sum of money after divorce, it will be the greatest happiness in life. Of course, I dare not say this at all. I resigned from the company at home. I have no intention of entering the workplace again. So I simply go back to school to continue my doctoral studies. When I left school that year, my tutor was very sorry. Fortunately, I have already registered last year. Now I just need to wait for the exam in half a month. Regarding this, Jack seems to be even happier than me. He said, Stella can study for a lifetime if she wants. This is not necessary at all. On the third day of marriage, I reluctantly went home with Jack to visit my parents and elder sister. In the living room, my parents kept praising Jack and completely ignored me sitting aside. If it weren't for me, they would probably be very willing to offer themselves to Jack. My father, this girl Stella has never been obedient and she was a child. She is lazy and good for nothing. Please bear with her. Jack looked back at me. There was a smile in his eyes. No. Stella is good in every way. My mother, this girl is ugly. She is not worthy of you originally. Jack interrupted her. Said inferently, I think Stella is beautiful and lovely. Who dares to say she is ugly? My mother. Ah. Yes. Yes. I was bored listening. So I went upstairs to pack my things in the room, and prepared to take some back. Anyway, I won't live here anymore. As soon as I opened the door, Sophia suddenly appeared from nowhere, looking at me coldly with her arms folded. She looked me up and down. Have you had a good time these days? My intuition told me that she didn't have good intentions. Sure enough. Her next sentence was, why can a person like you live so well? I couldn't help but say, the person like me? What's wrong with me? Aren't we born by the same parents? I was too lazy to pay attention to her. Anyway, every time I face her, I am the one who suffers. Sophia grabbed my hand again. When will you go back to the company? You can't just leave that project half done. I was surprised. I finally got out. Why should I go back? You. Footsteps came from the stairs. Sophia's eyes rolled. Aren't you afraid that Jack will know your true face? What true face do I have? Do I need her to say it? Didn't Jack check it himself when he married me? But in the next second, as soon as someone appeared at the stairway entrance, Sophia suddenly took several steps back straight in front of me and feebly fell onto the person who came. Stella, now that you have found a big tree to rely on, are you confident? How dare you push me? Sophia shouted shrilly and then turned to the person who caught her and said, Jack. Look at her. I just felt disgusted. Jack paused, pushed Sophia away, and quickly came to look at me. Stella, are you okay? I shook my head. I thought it was you who fell down. Seeing that I didn't look well, he decisively took my hand. Let's go home. Sophia pointed at me unwillingly. Obviously it's her. Shut up. Then, ignoring the look of my parents coming upstairs and wanting to persuade us to stay, he took me out on his own. As I walked past Sophia, I said calmly, Sophia, I don't owe you anything. It wasn't until I sat in the car and the car started and was getting farther and farther away from that villa that I woke up as if from a dream. It seemed that I really escaped from them. Jack leaned over and stared into my eyes. Don't cry. If you cry, you won't be beautiful. I said in a muffled voice, I'm not. He hugged me. You haven't had a good life these years, right? It's not extremely bad. It's just that I'm not so cared for. When Sophia was born, my parents were busy working hard outside and neglected to teach her. They felt a lot of guilt. When I was born, the family already had some assets. At that time, my parents' relationship broke down. My father had an affair. My mother had an affair outside. My father therefore suspected that I wasn't his biological child and sent me to my grandfather's house. Later, they had a big fight and just continued to live on. But I lived at my grandfather's house for 18 years. I am too introverted and don't know how to act sly. My grandparents don't like me either. It wasn't until after I took the college entrance examination and was going to college that I lived with my parents. And it became like this. As for Sophia, she thinks that I had no worries about food and clothing since I was born, unlike when she was a child and suffered hardships with her parents. So she always thinks that I owe her. I leaned on Jack's shoulder and listened to him say, It's okay. Don't care about them. I like you. I will only like you in my life. It sounds like coaxing a child. I said sullenly, Doctor quickly. The driver behind has honked for 10 minutes. Jack. After the preliminary entry examination. And soon after, the admission results also came out. I was preparing to move my luggage to live in the school dormitory. In fact, it's also okay to live at home. The distance is not far. But I always feel a bit overwhelmed. When I was packing my luggage, Jack looked at me resentfully from the side. Don't you miss me at all? I forced a smile. No. It's just more convenient at school. Jack sighed and got up to help me pack. Bring more clothes. These are all old. I'll take you to buy several carts of new clothes in a few days. It's not so exaggerated. Although my parents don't like me, they won't treat me badly in terms of food and clothing. And these. He rummaged through my already packed suitcase. Your period is coming soon. Is this enough? Forget it. I'll send you several carts in a few days. I looked up at the sky speechlessly. After talking for a long time, he hugged me from behind. Stella. We just got married and now we are living separately. Are you willing to leave me alone? His warm breath fell on the side of my neck. I couldn't help shrinking my neck. I really can't stand his love words anymore. Since I was a child, no one has called my name so gently and affectionately. His thin and strong arm was around my waist, with his chest against my back. I inexplicably remembered the way he held me. Sweat dripped from his forehead. His eyes were red and he called my name over and over. A person who is always gentle and restrained is especially different when in love. What am I thinking? Stella. You are going to school. Don't you have anything to give me? Give what? I pretended not to understand. He took my hand and touched his tie. Whispered softly, help me untie it. I actually like it very much when he calls my name. Over and over again. Tender and lingering. As if I am placed on the tip of his heart. So hot and comforting. Like now, Stella. Stella. In the depth of affection. He will lean against my forehead and ask me, Stella. Do you like me? I don't know. I can't answer. Liking is too far away for me. I have never received anyone's liking. Just like when I was a child. I clumsily made handicrafts and wove flower wreaths for my grandma. She would sweep them into the trash can. The toys. Clothes. and backpacks I wanted. The family could afford them, but they would ignore them and let me use old things year after year. Later, when I grew up, I thought my parents would like me. But in their eyes, there is only my elder sister. I can't hold a self-aid-based and sensitive heart to like others. This is not fair to me or to others. Not getting my response. He will kiss me slowly. His eyes seem to be filled with stars. It doesn't matter. As long as I like you. Jack will like Stella all his life. The things that were packed were messed up again. By the time everything was ready and we got in the car, it was already 2 hours later. Jack drove me to school. When we arrived at the school, he carried my luggage and sent me to the dormitory. He made my bed and arranged my things. I, a big living person, was completely useless. The girl in the same dormitory is called Lynn. Seeing Jack busy for me, she was envious. Your boyfriend is so nice. Unlike mine. With the pop, Jack put the cup down and turned around with a serious face. Not a boyfriend. We are married. Legally. Lynn opened her mouth wide. After Jack arranged everything for me, I sent him away. At the school gate, he wanted to say something but finally just hugged me gently. Call me if you need anything. I nodded. Jack pinched my face. When will you try to rely on me? I don't know how to answer this. When it was time to drive, Jack rolled down the car window. If there is a little boy talking to you, don't pay attention to him. Suddenly I couldn't help laughing. Lynn put half of her head on my shoulder. Your boyfriend. Bah. Your husband is so good to you. If mine could be half as good as him, I could wake up laughing even in my dreams. Lynn is a girl with short hair and thick eyebrows. She is generous and heroic. After a few days, we became familiar and often went in and out together. One day when I just came out of the laboratory building, I saw Jack standing under the big tree outside, holding a bag in his hand, wearing a white shirt and jeans, relaxed and casual. Unlike his usual outfit of wearing a suit and tie. Many girls passed by and looked at him one after another. Tall and good-looking. Really eye-catching. I don't know why I felt a little uncomfortable. I walked in front of him, and seemingly unintentionally blocked the gazes of those girls. He showed off what was in his hand like presenting a treasure. Booted jumps over the wall. How did he know I liked to eat this? Not only that. Usually at home, he found out that I don't like scallions, don't like carrots, and like to drink soup after meals. At first I thought it was a coincidence, until I asked the aunt who cooks that this was specially instructed by Jack. The feeling of being cared for made my heart feel sour and swollen. At the same time, I was also a bit at a loss. He held the thermos in one hand and took my hand with the other. Smiling, I miss you. I booked a room in a hotel near your school. Want to take a look? I am always made blush by his sudden love words. Like now. After getting along for several months. I already know what it means. But to be honest, I am also quite addicted to it. The hotel near the school is like being in disrepair. Dirty carpet, old wooden bed, and an old-fashioned fan blowing slowly. Jack didn't expect this situation either. Next time, just buy a house here directly. The summer air is stuffy. The wooden bed makes a creaking sound under the weight. It makes people want to cover their ears. He brought me a large box of clothes and shoes. He knew that I liked to sleep hugging something. So he also brought me a bear half as tall as a person. Jack took me to look through them one by one. Pick what you like. Throw away what you don't like. There is no way my dormitory can hold so many things. This is too luxurious. We took a bath somehow. Then we had a sumptuous dinner as if we had just been released from prison. Before it was time for curfew, he took me to the snack street for a stroll. By the time I returned to the dormitory, I was carrying a large bag of snacks, and there was still a cup of unfinished milk tea in my hand. My stomach was round. Lynn stared at my neck for a long time. Suddenly she said, "Is this the happiness of a legal couple?" I The consequence of eating and drinking without restraint for several days is that one night when I was using the toilet, I found that I had hemorrhoids. I have never had this disease before. For a moment, I felt extremely aggrieved. Secretly, I scolded Jack, who brought me spicy snacks. In my heart, Lynn has experience with this. During this time, she controls my diet and makes me drink light tea. I went to the hospital to see a doctor and also got some treatment medications. I thought it would get better after some time. However, man proposes, God disposes. That night, when I had just finished soaking in potassium permanganate solution and just got up, suddenly I felt dizzy and fell to the ground unconscious. When I woke up, Jack was sitting by my bed, pouring water and getting medicine for me, just with a sullen face and not saying a word. Seeing him angry for the first time, I was stunned for a moment and quickly adjusted. I took the water cup and sipped it slowly while secretly looking at him. But I felt a bit depressed in my heart. Lynn poked half of her head out at the door. Seeing the atmosphere between us, she felt a bit guilty. That day when you fainted, this Mr. John happened to call. So I answered it. You two talk slowly. After Lynn went out, Jack suddenly said, "What's the note you gave me on your phone?" I didn't understand why he suddenly cared about this question. The notes I gave him on my phone are all Mr. John. I added his contact information before we got married and never changed it. But my intuition told me that Jack wouldn't like it. Sure enough, not only did he not like it, but he also watched me change all these notes to "Dear Husband." After changing the note, he still felt it was not enough. He also asked me to post on Moments, upload our marriage certificate, and add a photo of two hands wearing wedding rings. I held my phone firmly, with tears in my heart. In the evening, I asked for leave and went to the house he bought near the school to rest with him. I thought this matter had passed, until he brought out a basin of purplish-red potion in front of me, and there was still a Xiaoningyang awkwardly clamped on his neck. Jack glanced at me. "Take off your pants." I stiffened my neck and refused to move. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. Seeing that I didn't move, Jack put down the things and sat by the bed. "Quick." "I won't." I buried my head in the quilt and said sullenly, "You are bullying me." "How am I bullying you?" He pulled me out of the quilt and said with a smile, "Obviously you are bullying me. You don't pay attention to yourself and still blame me." I said angrily, "Who told you to feed me those things?" Okay. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Now, dear Miss Song, can you take off your pants? It's only been a few months since we got married. How come I am completely controlled by him? Thinking of his appearance this morning, I was still a bit uneasy. "Were you angry today?" He glanced at me. "What do you think?" "I'm angry that you don't care about your body and eat and drink recklessly. I'm angry that you didn't tell me when you were sick. You have hemorrhoids and hypoglycemia. If it weren't for your roommate, you wouldn't tell me at all, right?" Actually, in the final analysis, I'm angry at myself for being useless. I can't find out your situation in time. I can't make you trust me and rely on me. I can't make you love me either. I lowered my head guiltily. He was right. I have been used to being alone for so many years. Few family members and friends care about me. I don't dare to rely on others either. I don't dare to place my joys and sorrows on one person. If I don't get the result I want, I'm afraid I will be worse than death. Jack sighed and stared into my eyes. "So, from today on, can you try to like me and rely on me? I don't ask you to love me. I just ask you to like me a little more every day." I clutched his sleeve. My eyes were sour. For the first time, I took the initiative to bury myself in his arms, which was considered an agreement. He stroked my hair. "Don't be afraid, Stella. I will love you more every day than the day before." In the end, I still yielded without backbone. I lay on the bed, my face deeply buried in the pillow, my ears red, Let Jack apply the ointment from behind. I comforted myself in my heart. It's okay. Anyway, there is no place he hasn't seen. But thinking like this, I still wish I could dig a hole and hide. I just pretended I was dead. The days of giving up seem endless. A month later, my hemorrhoids were cured. Coincidentally, school was on vacation. Lynn asked me about my vacation plans. I thought for a while and decided to go to Jack's company to find him. After all, I haven't been to his company since we got married. Lynn let out a hush and showed disgust. Every time you are with your husband, you are like a different person. I was stunned. Is there? How not? The smile in your eyes can't be hidden. Is it really like this? I touched my face in doubt. Since I didn't tell him in advance that I was coming, when I arrived at his company, I was stopped by the staff. The other party's perfunctory and contempt were undisguised. Hello, Madame. If you want to see General Manager Zhang, you need to make an appointment first. I was about to explain when a tall woman with heavy makeup, big wavy hair and red lips walked towards me. She stood in front of me, looked at me for a while, and showed an expression of understanding. You are Jack's new wife? You are really beautiful. This address was that I felt a little uncomfortable. I subconsciously frowned. She took my hand. Come on. I'll take you in. Jack's office is on the top floor. The woman led me into his office unimpeded, and then gracefully withdrew. Jack looked at me in surprise. Why did you suddenly want to come here? It's vacation. I just want to come and have a look. As I said that, my eyes noticed the lipstick and face cream on his desk. There was even a bikini on the sofa. And there was a perfume smell on him that I was not familiar with. My heart immediately sank to the bottom. He seemed generous and honest, letting these things be placed in front of me without any desire to cover up. It's a mess here. I'll ask someone to clean it up. You rest for a while first. He paused. Stella, don't you have anything to tell me? Say what? At that moment, many thoughts flashed through my mind. I wanted to ask who that woman was. Whose are these things? I wanted to ask if you are tired of me. But in the end, I just nodded silently. Why bother? This is originally a marriage that shouldn't expect too much. In matters of feelings, the one who moves first loses. Obviously it was he who said he liked me first. But at this moment, I feel like a clown, unconsciously being led by him. I had a meal with him. In the afternoon, I left in a hurry on the pretext of having something to do at school. I was afraid that if I stayed a little longer, my emotions would break down first. Seeing me go out happily and come back in a daze, Lynn was surprised. What's wrong? Did you two quarrel? Did you give him the thing? Yes. There is a little cat embroidered by me in my bag. It's not something valuable. I just want him to hang it in the car. I didn't have time to give it out. Before I could leave my mark on him, he had already used another woman's perfume. Since that day, Jack and I started a cold war tacitly. The atmosphere dropped to freezing point for a while. When school was on summer vacation, I didn't go home either. I called Jack and stayed at school on the pretext of doing research. Jack paused for a long time on the other end of the phone. It was so long that it seemed like a century. I thought he would say something, but in the end, he just said faintly, then take care of yourself. I said, okay. I don't know what I'm expecting. In the third week of staying at school, my parents and Sophia brought a lot of things to find me at school. After false greetings, they got to the point. My father said, Stella, there is something wrong with the company at home. There is a shortage of funds for turnover. You can't just stand by and do nothing, right? My mother also said, yes. We don't want much. Just let Jack transfer 50 million. 50 million. They really can ask for it. It seems that the company that Jack has worked hard to run is opened by him. I have always known my parents' characters. They are ambitious and greedy. In the early years, they still had some conscience. But since they became rich, they have become stingy. In order to save money, they turned a blind eye to the food processing environment. For those who got food poisoning from eating products processed by the Song family, they chose to settle with money. Not only did they lose all their family property, but they also owed a large loan from the bank. I said, I can't help with this. Jack won't help either. My mother was anxious. Oh, you ungrateful broom star. I shouldn't have given birth to you in the first place. What did you say? My father slapped her and then said with a smile, Stella, think about it again. After all, we are a family, right? I ignored him. From beginning to end. Sophia had an ugly expression and turned her head to one side without saying a word. My father and Sophia pulled my swearing mother and left. I stood up and found a familiar figure in the shade of a tree at the school gate. I don't know how long he had been standing there. Seeing that I had found him, he didn't hide. He got in the car as if nothing had happened, and left a long trail of car exhaust in front of me. I was stunned for a moment, standing still with pursed lips. My eyes were sour and I wanted to cry. It was he who said he liked me. And it was he who turned around and left without looking back. And I, in this battle that hasn't even started yet, was defeated repeatedly and completely rooted. I returned to the dormitory. Lynn looked at me without saying a word. She just hugged me gently. Stella, in matters of feelings, there is no way to calculate wins and losses. You are so entangled. It's better to ask him yourself. If there is no hope, cut it off and never look back. It's better than being so melancholy like you are now. She said that I have never been in love. I am as clumsy as a child in matters of feelings. On the one hand, I don't dare to reach out to grasp. On the other hand, I long for others' unrestrained preference. But if you don't take the initiative and just wait for others to lead you, that person will inevitably get tired. I was stunned as I listened. The only thought in my heart was, Lynn is right. I have to find him and ask clearly. At worst, get a divorce and cut it off. I want to find him. That night, I rushed to his office building in a hurry. I waited anxiously across the road, but I saw him get on that woman's Lamborghini. The little courage I had finally gathered was like a balloon punctured by a needle. It deflated all at once. Their car drove away. I sat on the ground. The small puddles gathered after the rain reflected my embarrassed appearance. The flashing neon lights and the noisy honking of cars intertwined in the world I was in. I closed my eyes as if I couldn't feel anything. A sharp sound of high heels approached. In the next moment, I was slapped on the face and was slapped to one side with a burning pain. I looked up. Sophia asked sarcastically, The man doesn't want you anymore, right? I was wondering why you refused to help today. So it turns out you were dumped. How does it feel to be abandoned? I propped myself up on the ground with my hands. Then what about you? I was dumped. What are you doing here? Are you here to see my joke? Sophia sneered. I just can't stand your appearance. When I was a child, I suffered hardships with my parents. But when you were a child, you had no worries about food and clothing and enjoyed all the results. You also got a good marriage, and were held in the palm of someone's hand. But I have to be forced to manage a company that is about to go bankrupt. Why are all the good things yours? Why? Why? She couldn't see my inferiority and sensitivity living under someone else's roof. And I never knew the hardships she endured when she lived frugally with her parents. There is a huge gap between us. I have nothing to say. What are you still doing here? Come with me quickly. Where to? She said sarcastically. You'll know when you get there. There were 2 cars following her. My parents got out of one of the cars with people and walked towards here. I had a hunch that nothing good would happen. On the other car, through the rear view mirror, I saw half of a face on the passenger seat. It was clearly the playboy that my parents had forced me to marry at the beginning. Seeing that Jack no longer cared about me, and couldn't get his support from me either, and being burdened by debts, they resorted to any means, and had evil ideas. For so many years. Although I have been used to their cold treatment, this is the first time that I truly and thoroughly feel their coldness and selfishness. Sister, I said softly. Look. These are our parents. Today they can sell me for money. In the future, who knows if they won't do something even more excessive. Under the night light, Sophia's pupils suddenly contracted, and her slightly trembling hands revealed her fear at this moment. I had to escape. I kicked off my high heels. Looking at the green light, I quickly crossed to one side of the road. Behind me came my mother's shrill cry, "Catch her quickly. Don't let her run away." In a panic, I bumped into someone. I smelled the familiar mint fragrance. I looked up and saw his concerned and anxious eyes. Stella. Are you okay? Are you all right? This is a farce and it should end. Jack beat up those people alone. My parents were fine. But they were trembling while watching. The punches were hard and the scene was horrible. Before the police came, Jack quickly took me and drove away. This is not the same as the domineering president leading a battle against the evil forces that I saw in novels. I thought he would send those people to the police station. At this time, I don't know why I still have the heart to think about those messy things. Jack drove at night. He looked at me frequently along the way. I wrapped in his coat and turned to look at the scenery outside the window without saying a word. He called Stella several times, softly and tenderly, but I just ignored him. Finally, he raised his voice, "Stella." I looked at him. "What are you doing?" "Nothing. Nothing." When the car arrived at home, he opened the door for me. I paused and walked barefoot in the opposite direction. Jack followed me anxiously. "Stella, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going home. Since I started college, I have been constantly doing part-time jobs. Now I have a small amount of savings. I also have 2 houses in the city center. But no one knows. I want to go back to my own place." But as I walked with my head down, I couldn't help but listen to the sounds behind me. I am usually not such an awkward and sentimental person. I don't know why I can't control myself in front of him again and again. I counted in my heart, 1, 2. Before I could count to 3, I was suddenly picked up. I put my arms around his neck and glared at him hard. "Put me down." "I won't." He kissed me. "Stella. I'm wrong." He carried me upstairs all the way, pressed me on the bed, and leaned down to kiss me. I put my hand on his chest. "Talk about business first. I miss you. Don't change the subject." "Who is the woman in your office that day?" "She is my sister." He restrained himself. His voice was deep. The desire in his eyes was about to overflow. "Her name is Bella. She just returned home not long ago. That day, the front desk told me that you were here. I was originally going to pick you up, but she deliberately tried to see how much you liked me. So she put those things there. I didn't think about it at first. I couldn't resist being coaxed by her. It's my fault. I clearly know your character like this. But I still treat you like this. I'm sorry. Stella. I won't do it again in the future. Don't mention divorce. You can do whatever you want." He looked at me carefully. "Is it okay?" I hugged him back in a daze. My nose was a little sour. I'm sorry. This marriage was originally calculated by me. But I still have to bet on my weight in your heart. I am being sentimental and overestimating myself. He buried his head in my neck. There was a moist warmth spreading. "No, it's not like this." I answered quietly and firmly in my heart. "Stella also likes Jack. Very much. Very much. I like him rushing towards me. I like his unfounded preference. I like his gentleness and knowing when to advance and retreat. I like his appearance. I like his talent. Even his strong arms at night. I like them all. I love him." I turned over and was on top of him. I whispered softly in his ear. I saw his eyes light up little by little. Suddenly he let out an ouch, and showed a sly look. "I'm sore all over from the fight just now. Then it's up to my wife. The rain outside the window fell on the eaves, lingering. And inside the room, there was endless warmth. At 12 noon, I got up on time. As soon as I got up, I saw Jack sitting by the bed playing with the little cat I embroidered. When he saw me wake up, he smiled. Is this for me? I nodded. And I watched him play with it all day, as if it were some extremely precious treasure. In the afternoon, Sophia called me and said she wanted to see me. Jack was extremely disgusted with her because of what happened that day. He had to follow me no matter what. Last night, the stock price of songs plummeted unprecedentedly. There were people coming to collect debts. Only then did Sophia realize that they had also borrowed usury in her name. In fact, I also contributed to this matter. I hacked into Song's network system, exported the information, and gave them the heaviest blow with Jack's help. Tit for tat. After today, I have no more affection with them. Sophia is now in a state of distress, and sits opposite me. She said, I sued them. It's ridiculous that it wasn't until the end that I found out that they had changed the legal representative of the company to me earlier. That's what it meant. Songs is already an empty shell. The finances have all run away with the money. What else is left? I frowned. Then why are you looking for me? I want to borrow money and start over. Across a table, I observed my own sister carefully for the first time. Graduated from a famous school. Good-looking, excellent and hardworking. Such a girl can shine everywhere. Moreover, she is my sister. It's all because of that couple of dogs. I gave her most of my savings. When she was leaving, she turned back and hugged me. Stella, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that day. I don't have any other thoughts about Jack. I just envy. I know. I'm leaving. I wish you a good life and a long life without worries. Walking out of the coffee shop, I hugged Jack tightly. What's wrong? He asked. I have no money. It doesn't matter. He put his arm around my waist. I don't want money. Free on-site service. That's not what I meant. Jack, you still owe me one thing. Of the 3 things you said before marriage, there is still one you haven't done. What? I want to travel. Since we got married, we haven't had time for a honeymoon yet. Okay. He smiled. Then call me something nice first. Go away. Epilogue. In the 3rd year after marriage, which was also the year I graduated from my doctorate, we were going to have a child. A child like me and Jack. He will grow up in love. After half a year like this, in the season of fragrant osmanthus in September, I showed Jack the pregnancy test stick. He was so happy that he couldn't sleep for 3 consecutive days. I'm pregnant. This is a big deal. My in-laws, who are rarely seen all year round, heard the news and hurried back from Europe, carrying several large boxes of supplements. Jack's sister Bella also brought her husband back. Sophia went 2 other places to work hard and opened her own studio. I heard that she is doing well. She sent me a box of postcards and added a note. When your little niece grows up, take her to travel around the world. Strange. How does she know it's a little niece? The whole family gathered together, chatting and laughing. They watched me closely. As soon as I moved a little, someone would come to support me. Even when they walked past me, they were afraid that their breathing would be too heavy and scare me. Jack used to call me Stella. Later he called me wife, and sometimes sister. Since the family came back, there were my aunt here and there in the house. It made him very jealous. Bella got up from the sofa and winked at me. Come on. Sister will show you something. I followed her upstairs in a daze. Now we are in the old house of the John family. Bella took me to Jack's childhood room. She rummaged through and found a diary and a stack of photos. This diary is already yellowed. Jack's name is written on the title page. The date is 10 years ago. Date in 2008. With willows and painted bridges and blue waves rippling, I scooped up a handful of water and got up from the river. I saw her standing on the bridge. This is the first time I saw her. Yi Chang is beautiful with mountains and rivers. But it is not as good as her eyebrows and eyes. She cried. Grandma threw away her flower wreath. She hid in the grass by the river with her gray cloth school bag and cried all morning. Grandma came out to look for her with a broom. Her name is Stella. Stella who never stops. I secretly took a set of her photos. Her skin is fair and delicate. Her smile is charming. She won't be angry if she knows. Right? Oh no. I seem to like her a little bit. Can I go and say hello to her? She won't think I'm crazy. Right. The Hold Diary records 3 months. Every diary entry has my name. That stack of photos is all of me. Various me. Standing or sitting. Crying or laughing. Under his hands. I seem to have become another person. Another picture seemed to appear in front of my eyes. The setting sun is melting gold. The reeds are floating. After I cried enough on the bridge and got up, I was startled by the person who suddenly appeared in front of me. He stretched out his hand nervously and stammered, "Hello. My name is Jack. Can we get to know each other?" Bella was chattering on the side. Jack used to study photography. At the age of 17, he went to the countryside to collect scenery. The theme assigned by the teacher was scenery. But when he came back, his camera was full of photos of a girl. The teacher scolded him severely. Later we found out that it was the youngest daughter of the Song family who was sent to the countryside to be raised since childhood. Originally, I thought this matter was over. Until the day he took over the company. At a press conference, he accidentally learned that the chairman of the Song group was discussing marriage for his youngest daughter, intending to marry her to a playboy of a certain group. As soon as he inquired, "It was really you?" He was in a hurry. On that day, he went to your house and used coercion and bribery to make your parents agree to this marriage. I didn't even know that in that period of my life that I least wanted to look back on. It was extremely precious in the eyes of others. I haven't obtained much in my life and there is nothing to talk about losing. But it turns out that there is also someone who can soothe all my unwillingness and resentment. It's being attracted by beauty. And it's also being loyal to the soul. I suddenly felt something. I stroked my stomach and looked back. He was leaning against the door frame and looking at me with a smile.